And it's great to be here with you, and it's great to be in the final two. A very big thank you to all my supporters here in Parliament. Now we move forwards, and I'm here today to talk to you about the choice that we face, not just in this leadership election, as critical as that is, but the real choice that our country faces between Labour's failing agenda and the new approach that I want us to take, the new approach that we need as a country. Because if I am chosen as the next leader of the Conservative Party, we will stand for a complete break from Labour's failing agenda. Keir Starmer's delusions, weakness, and stale ideas are taking our country in the wrong direction. Our job is to send him packing. Where we can, we should be constructive, but we must not compromise on our principles and what we know to be good for our country. We must stand up for common sense, for the British people, on every issue, no matter how radical and bold that might seem to people here in Westminster. Frankly, we need to get serious. That means having strong guiding principles and clear policies that show the British people how the Conservative Party is on their side. It's only with that seriousness and a clear plan that we can win back the voters' trust and see off this chaotic Labour government. So, talking of plans, let's talk about illegal migration and how we tackle that. In the 97 days Keir Starmer has been in power, 12,000 people, each one costing taxpayers hundreds of thousands of pounds, have come here illegally. Now let's face it, we can't say that we solved this problem when we were in government, but we did have a plan to stop the boats with the Rwanda policy. And if strengthened, as 60 colleagues and I sought to do in Parliament, that deterrent would have worked. Keir Starmer and Labour do not have a plan. Instead, they have run some focus groups and have found that just saying smash the gangs would do wonders for their polling. But it won't do wonders for our country. It will not help our country one bit. You can't arrest your way out of this problem. As the National Crime Agency has told them, you need a deterrent to break the people smuggling gangs' business model once and for all. Labour's lack of a plan shouldn't surprise us. Deep down, they don't really care about fixing this problem. We mustn't forget, according to Keir Starmer, all immigration law is racist. For Labour, illegal migration is just a fact of life. They think the British public should shut up and just tolerate it. But the British public deserve better than that. I have a clear plan to fix this problem. After 3 failed attempts, there can be no more half measures, no room for doubt about our intentions, and no questions about the courage of our convictions. we should set out in opposition the legal changes necessary to ensure that anyone who comes here illegally is detained and is swiftly deported. That will only be possible by leaving the jurisdiction of the European Court of Human Rights. It's the ECHR that is equipping illegal migrants with an arsenal of laws to prevent their removal. We can't just ignore the court's judgments. We're a common law nation. We can't reform it either. That would require agreement of all 46 member states, from Iceland to Andorra. That is a fantasy. So after years of prevaricating, we must resolve this question for good. It is leave or remain. And I'm for leave. Right person to lead our party and our country, you can't dodge big decisions. I'm not prepared to allow terrorists and dangerous foreign criminals to roam our streets. I'm not prepared to allow illegal migration to continue for years, for decades to come, all because activist judges have created laws we never consented to, that elevate the rights of terrorists and criminals and illegal migrants over the British public and our national interest. Criminals like the Ugandan murderer who clubbed somebody to death in the back of an ambulance, only for the courts to deport them, to conclude that they couldn't deport them because he couldn't get the mental health care he sought in Uganda, citing Article 3 of the ECHR. Unless we leave, these dangerous foreign criminals will remain in our country at taxpayers' expense for years to come. Unless we leave, we will never be able to end illegal migration. And unless we leave, our party has no future. To regain the trust of the British public, we must truly do whatever it takes. And on legal migration, Keir Starmer isn't just evidently at ease with hundreds of thousands of people coming here every year. He believes, and almost all his party believe, that our economy, our public services could not survive without mass migration. I believe that's completely wrong. Over the past 2 decades, migration has never been higher, but our growth has never been lower. We reduced our overall GDP, but ignored GDP per capita. Mass low-skilled migration has suppressed investment and the wages of millions of ordinary Britons. It has fueled our housing crisis, and it's placed immense pressure on our public services. It's stretched cohesion to breaking point. They say the values of those coming here are irrelevant. I say that people hostile to our values and sympathetic to our enemies should not be coming here. Labour say that multiculturalism is the answer. I say we need a shared sense of belonging that binds us all together, people of all backgrounds, into one united kingdom. And that there are limits to how many people we can successfully integrate into that country in any given year. We can't just will mass migration to end. We must demonstrate to a deeply sceptical public that this time we will do it. And as I've been saying, we must agree that for the very first time, we will have a legally binding cap. That, frankly, is the only way that we will end mass migration. And we will do that by fundamentally changing our open-ended immigration system and creating a legally binding democratic lock that keeps net migration in the tens of thousands or lower. So at this leadership election, we have a choice, a profound choice, a clear choice. Where do we stand on migration? I say leave the ECHR. cap migration in the tens of thousands, and regain the trust of the British public. My way is the plan that we need. My way is the promise of a plan, not a plan tomorrow. That won't cut it. If we don't get serious on migration, our party won't survive. It's as simple as that. So let's get serious now. Not least, so we can move on to all the other big challenges our country faces. None more greater than growing our economy and raising living standards for everyone in our country. And the plan that I will present to the British people on the economy will be just as clear as the one I present today on migration. Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves say that they want to increase growth, but they believe that government creates wealth. I believe that the British people create wealth. They believe they can tax wealth and wealth creators, and there will be no consequences. But they're already driving investors and investment out of Britain, and we're all paying the price for it. They say they can borrow whatever they want, and it will be fine. I say that sound public finances are the bedrock of our prosperity, and that borrowing billions to fund vanity projects like Ed Miliband's fantasy energy company is wrong, just as borrowing billions to fund tax cuts in the 2022 mini-budget was also wrong. Labour believe that taxes must rise remorselessly, up and up and up. Yet again, they say we have no choice. And if we want good public services, we just have to accept this. I say that's absurd and wrong. Taxation is at a record high. By getting growth up and by reforming our state, we can responsibly bring down the tax burden as we need to. Labour say that phasing out gas over the next 5 years will reduce energy bills, but this is our cheapest and most reliable source of energy. Their ideological dogma is a recipe for higher bills, families suffering, and driving more good industrial jobs abroad. I say we will cut our emissions, but never on the backs of working people, and not by further deindustrialising our country. Labour say we must build more homes. I agree. But I say let's do them by ensuring that our big cities have the homes that they desperately need. You don't do this by cutting Labour's housing target in London and by increasing red cars by 1,000%. Why concrete over our countryside when the greatest economic benefits come from building them in our big cities? I say we need the greatest project of urban densification and regeneration, with neighbourhoods empowered and with beautiful new homes where people actually want to live. That is what I will do if I'm lucky enough to lead this party. And I'll present a very clear choice on the state, the size and the nature of it. Labour say the state doesn't waste any money. Look, they say that there's no fat to trim on the state. I say the government is wasting billions, and everyone in our country knows that. Labour believe our state is working well. I believe we face a major problem with public sector productivity. It's no higher today than it was 2 decades ago. And I say the best leaders in our public services should be empowered, and those responsible for persistently poor performance have got to go. And nowhere is this more prevalent than in the NHS. Labour stand ultimately for a big state that fails. If I am our leader, we will stand for a small state that works. Labour pose as serious people. I say they're anything but serious people. They said the grown-ups were back in charge, but instead they're bickering like children. And that's why we must dust ourselves down. We've got to pick ourselves back up. And we've got to get serious. Because to do anything else means letting down the country. Today I've set out the choice that we must put to the country and the clear policy positions we've got to take. Because when we are confident in our party, we can win. But today confidence is low. We can't just rely on cliches and platitudes. That won't suffice. The public need to see that we once again are on their side, with serious answers to the big challenges facing our country. They need to see that we are laser focused on what they really care about, not getting drawn down rabbit holes. The Conservative Party is the oldest, the most successful political party in the world. We exist to serve our country in government, not to do battle on Twitter. Despite everything, our party remains our country's best hope. We're the voice of the silent majority, the voice of hard-working, patriotic people across the United Kingdom. Their values are our values. Their priorities are our priorities. They expect us to deliver on them, to develop serious policy solutions, to express them soberly and coherently, and then to get on and put them into effect. Under my leadership, we will conduct ourselves with purpose, with clarity, with competence, and we will win again. No more drama. In its place, a serious plan and serious leadership. We will be a broad church, but we must rediscover our common creed. Under my leadership, we will put an end to the drama, the factionalism, the infighting. I will party. I'll turn age, and together we will turn our faces to the future. That's how we regain the public's trust. So my plan: grow the economy, reform our public services like the NHS, get migration done by capping the numbers and leaving the ECHR. A serious plan, not needless drama. Let's unite around the serious answers to the challenges our country faces, with courage, with competence, with conviction, to make the Conservative case for change again. That's how we win again. Not in 15 years' time, not in 10 years, but that is how we win the next general election. That's my message. That's my mission. As your leader, that is what we will do together. So let's make it happen. Thank you very much. Very good. Well, that was the easy part, and now we have some questions from the press, and I think we've got Ali Fortescue from Sky. Hi, Ali. Good morning.
Hi, thank you. Kenny Badenoch at the moment is ahead in polling of many of the polls with members. She was ahead in the last round with MPs. Beyond the ECHR, what do you think it is that you have that she doesn't? And do you think you're the underdog in this race? And can I also ask, while I've got you, after the shenanigans yesterday, claims that games were played, do you think you could be in the final two by accident?
Well, look, there are always horse trading in these things, but I think in the privacy of the ballot box, my colleagues in Parliament chose who they thought were the best placed people to lead this party forward, and I'm immensely grateful for the trust and the confidence that they put in me. On your first point, look, I have stood consistently in this leadership election for the serious answers to the big challenges this country faces. I think, as I said in my remarks, you win back the trust and the confidence of the public by having a plan, by focusing on the things the public care about. The NHS, immigration, our economy, as I have done relentlessly over the last few months. By ending the drama, an end to infighting, I want to bring this party back together and to give it the serious leadership that we need and the country needs right now. That is what I offer. That's what I hope the members of this party will support when they come to vote in the coming weeks. Thanks, Alan. Now I'll go to Chris from GB News. Hi, Chris.
You want to end mass migration, but would you do that even if it damages economic growth? Is that a price worth paying for controlling numbers coming in?
Chris, I think that's a false choice. As I've set out consistently, I don't believe the age of mass migration has made any of us richer. In the 25 years since Tony Blair became Prime Minister, 5.9 million people net have come into our country. And yet this has been an era marked by low economic growth and poor productivity growth. I think it has stopped companies from investing in the skills and the technology that are needed to support British workers and to drive our economy forwards, as well as putting massive pressure on housing and public services. So I think we can do better than that. What I want to do is end mass migration and fire up our economy. We'll need to work on our skills policy, on welfare reform, bring things together in a serious plan. That is what I offer. It's a big change, but it's one that is in the national interest for our country. Thank you. And I got Camilla from the Telegraph. Camilla. Oh, sorry, apologies. But Camilla nonetheless. Hi, Camilla. How are you?
I'm
Sorry,
all right,
we'll
thank you very much.
Hi,
Taking me
Camilla.
by surprise there, because I didn't know I was asking a question. Let's think of something to ask you.
I don't think you'll struggle, Camilla.
Now, let's think. One of the concerns about you is the journey you've been on from Remainer now to Eurosceptic ditcher of the ECHR. Is that a fair criticism that you are at the moment perhaps parading as Nigel Farage, but actually in heart and in truth you're more like David Cameron?
Well, I don't think it's a fair description, Camilla, no. My values haven't changed. What has changed is the exposure to the reality on the ground. When I was Housing Secretary, I saw a planning system that didn't work and meant that we couldn't build critical national infrastructure, like nuclear power stations that would transform our country. As Community Secretary, I saw during the pandemic a British state that was simultaneously overbearing, telling us what to do, but powerless to actually achieve things. And above all, in my time at the Home Office, I saw the British state unable to do the most basic function, keep people safe and secure our borders. And so, yes, I did conclude, having seen what other people have not seen, that we need to be fundamentally different, that we've got to adopt serious solutions to the big challenges our country faces. That is what I offer in this contest, not platitudes, but serious answers. That is what has drawn members and members of Parliament to my campaign over the summer. That is what I hope will draw members now and will ultimately win us back the trust and the confidence of the British public, if I'm lucky enough to lead the party in the future. Now I've got Calgi from the Express.
Hello. Your speech, you've promised to end infighting and factionalism. Your ECHR policy is admittedly bold, but you still only won the support of about 1 in 3 Tory MPs. So how do you go about enforcing party discipline on that issue above others? And do you expect all Tory MPs to fall completely in line with that policy, should you win?
Well, firstly, I'm very pleased to have received the support I have, in fact, throughout the contest, and from all quarters within the Conservative family. So my campaign represents all the traditions of our party, and people have come together around my candidacy. I want to use this leadership contest to settle some of the big questions facing our party and our country. That was surely the purpose of having this long contest. Not to spend months debating personalities, not to say there will be a plan tomorrow, but we don't know what it is. That is a recipe for more infighting and for more loss of public trust. So what I stand for, and this does differ from some of the other candidates who have put themselves forward over the course of this contest, is I've set out very clear policy answers. And I want a mandate now from the members of this party for us to go on and unite around those clear solutions. That is the way to heal this party, and that is the way to win back the public's trust. I believe we can do that. Let's get together with a very clear plan as to how to take the country forwards. Now, I'm going to go to Martina now at the Sun. Hi, Martina.
Thank you very much. You said you're not worried about immigration crackdown potentially leaving gaps in the labour market, and this is because you want to push economically inactive Brits into the workforce. Can I ask you to be a bit more specific about how you would go about and do that? Would your approach involve more stick and less carrot? And then quickly, if I may, what are your thoughts on Taylor Swift getting taxpayer-funded blue light escort to Wembley?
Well, on your first point, I wrote a 100-page report on exactly this topic earlier in the year, where I set out in great detail exactly how you would do this. I don't think it's right that we have millions of people in our country who are out of work when we're importing foreign labour into it instead. We've got to help those people into the dignity and the security of work. That's better for them, and it's better for our economy. That does mean going back to the welfare reforms that Ian Duncan Smith and others pursued in the early days of the last Conservative government, renewing that as a moral mission for the Conservative Party. I want to take that forward, and I've spoken about it in the recent past. It will mean a different skills policy as a country. I've said recently that we should be investing more in apprenticeships, and if that means failing universities closing and converting into hubs for apprenticeships, we should confront that, because I want to give young people real skills, not just low-value degrees. Ending mass migration won't be plain sailing, but if we bring forward a serious plan to do it, it will change our country and make it a better, more prosperous, more cohesive place. On your point about Taylor Swift, well look, I was surprised to learn that the Home Secretary had intervened in this matter. Decisions like this are left for the police, who are operationally independent. So I'm surprised that she's chosen to intervene to provide police protection for a celebrity. But it's really a matter for her. On the broader issue, they said that they were going to be whiter than white. They've been mired in sleaze, and they don't seem to be able to shake it off. We've got Jason Gross from the Mail.
Yeah, sure, thanks. There's been a lot of shenanigans in the voting over the last couple of days. Can you stand there hand on heart and say you've had no part in that? And can I just clarify exactly what you mean on your immigration policy? Last week you seemed to be talking about a net immigration freeze. Today you're saying it's going to be a cap in the tens of thousands, which I take to be under 100,000. What exactly are you saying you're going to do?
Well, I've been consistent on this. I want us to deliver the effective freeze in net migration that the country needs. And that will be delivered by a cap set by Parliament in the tens of thousands or lower. Ultimately, it'll be for Parliament to decide the exact number, and that will need to take into account the pressure on housing, on public services, and our economy. But that's how I view this. And that will be a big change, because we have never had a cap before. There are those who don't seem to know that, but we've never had a cap before. And that will mean that there is a democratic lock now set by Parliament, so we can finally look the British public in the eye and promise this will happen, and they will know we'll actually do it this time. On your point about what happened in Parliament, we did not trade any votes. We worked relentlessly to persuade colleagues to get the greatest number of supporters we could in Parliament. And I think you will have seen in the way that I've conducted myself over the summer that we've worked hard. This has been a campaign that has done 150 events across the country. The only campaign that has visited all 4 nations of the United Kingdom. We've worked hard to win the support, the trust and the confidence of members of Parliament. Now we're going to do exactly the same with members of the party. Very good. Oh, well, sorry, there's one last, go on. There's one last question, and then I'll bring it to a close.
Sorry, Archie Mitchell from The Independent. You were talking about not doing battle on Twitter and needless chaos, I think was the quote you might have said. Are you sort of taking a barb at Kemi Badenoch there, and do you think she's an unserious candidate to be leader of the opposition?
Well, I think the whole party has been characterised by disunity, by petty squabbling, and by differences that need to end. That is what the public are expecting of us right now. So if I'm lucky enough to lead the party, that is what I will do. I want to heal the party. I want to settle the big policy debates that we've had now, so that we can unite around a clear policy platform, and we could take the fight to Labour and provide the effective opposition that the country is crying out for. And that should begin immediately. In fact, it should begin with the budget. I want to be the leader of the opposition who has stood up in the House of Commons, giving the response to Rachel Reeves at the end of the month. That is what we need now. The country needs its failing Labour government to be held to account robustly. Brilliant. Thank you all very much indeed.
My turn. So, Officer Rossendale.